or should we take
I would
a minute
love
break?
it. Go,
Okay,
if
great.
you want to take a minute breathe break, that if you want to incorporate that, that would be fine. I've told people to kind of stretch. I know we're running late this morning, but it's whatever. It's on your time now.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, which is going to take me a second because for some reason when I hit share screen, my actual screen that I wanted to share did not come up. So let me try that one more time and see if, there we go. I know that we're going back to back and that was a very full session. So if you need to take a stretch break or if you need to take a bio break, please feel free to do that. We're going to start just with a very quick definition of mindfulness. I want most of this to be about resources and for you to have an opportunity to ask questions. And so I have a lot of slides, but we're going to kind of roller skate through them pretty quickly. So you are here for a session on being mindful, educating mindfully, and teaching mindfulness, but specifically resources. And so we're going to hit all of those things. If you would like to chat out an example of mindfulness in your everyday life, I know that for most of us, mindfulness is not a brand new topic, but I think it really helps people who may be new to this to just see that mindfulness is something that we all do every day, and that it's just a part of our regular life. So definitions of mindfulness. I know we're getting some in chat, just some of the simple things that we do every day, which are mindful. I like this definition. You've got a person and a dog, and I'm a dog lover, dog owner, so this one really resonates with me, walking through the park. And so you've got the person thinking about the past, thinking about the future, feeling separate from the experience, maybe not feeling kind of that oneness with nature or this natural environment, that oneness with what's happening in this present moment. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have our dog that's just really focused on right here and right now. And so I think this is a great visual example definition of what is mindful and what is just a mind full of stuff that interferes with our ability to enjoy right here, right now, or to just be in the right here, right now. So in mindfulness, I know that we have particular ways of defining with words. This is a definition that you will see a lot by Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is an international leader in mindfulness. I like this definition. Amy Saltzman, Dr. Saltzman is also an international leader. I like this definition because it takes it a step further to response. We are not slaves to our reactions. We can pause and choose our response, and we can choose that in a way that is being compassionate for ourselves, showing ourselves care, and also showing care for the people around us. So we can take mindfulness into what we're doing as well as what we're thinking. With Compassionate Schools, this is a particular way that we define mindfulness. This is a poster in our classroom. If you would like one of these, you can send me an email. I'll give you my email address, and I'd be glad to give you an electronic copy and you can print it out. But this is kind of a way of breaking it down for students and teachers too, so that we can look at what we're doing right now. And just, kind of doing this sort of checklist, am I pausing before I choose my words or my actions? Am I noticing how I can be compassionate for myself in this situation and compassionate for the other person, those kinds of things. So this is another way of breaking down and defining mindfulness. And then for me, this is really important. Social emotional competencies that we know through the CASEL standards. Mindfulness is actually a tool for teaching those. So mindfulness is what we use in order to do social emotional learning for our students and for ourselves as well. And so just a reminder about the CASEL standards. CASEL, this is our social emotional learning standards through our national organization. And you can see that the 5 competencies are here. In the orange area, we have competencies that are really about ourselves, including self-management, those responses that where we treat ourselves well. And then we have in the green areas, social awareness, relationship skills. So those are more about others, and responsible decision-making. And the yellow is kind of threaded throughout. And this is a complete matchup with our deeper learning and our success skills in JCPS. And it's also a complete matchup with the health education standards too. So if you're one of those people that's a little bit new to this and you're kind of wondering like, well, why would we really teach mindfulness? That seems like it's kind of out there, maybe even a little woo-woo. Actually, that's the tool that we can use to teach our own standards. And so this comes into play here. I don't think that anyone in this group is going to question why we would need to teach social emotional learning competencies or skills, but one of my elevator talk points is always about the fact that we all now are experiencing trauma, and through COVID and other events that have happened in our country, and for many of us this is layered onto pre-existing trauma. So really, mindfulness is more important now than ever as this tool to teach these things. And so I will give you the link to this PowerPoint if you'd like to go back and look at some of this stuff. And if you have questions about it, you can always reach out to me at another time. But again, I want us to be able to spend more time on resources at the end. So let's try a little mindfulness practice, and then we're going to go to resources. So what are mindfulness practices? These are breathing techniques, they're drinking and eating techniques, they're mindful movement, which includes walking. It also includes things like yoga, Tai Chi, creative movement and dance, all of these kinds of things. We can do a mindful moment in silence. We can also do guided meditations, self-affirmations, other kinds of affirmations, present moment awareness. All of these are mindfulness practices. So let's do one where we're going to center and ground. We're going to do an intention setting, which is a why, which we know is very important for teaching skills. We're going to do a couple breathing techniques, a little bit of movement, and then a short gratitude practice. And so on our screen, I have placed some leaves because we know research tells us that even just looking at a picture of a tree can help us to start to kind of calm and focus. So you're welcome to look at the leaves, or you can close your eyes, or you can look down. And we do this so that we can create a barrier between visual distraction around us and ourselves and our ability to turn kind of within. So whatever feels right for you, we're going to do maybe like a 10-minute practice, and then we're going to do resources. So you can look at the screen, you can close your eyes, or you can just simply look down. If you want to turn off your camera, you're welcome to do that. Or you can just participate by observing in case you're thinking of something you might want to do with students. And we're going to come to right here, right now. We're going to center by coming to this present moment. And we'll do that through the body. So I want you to notice your feet connected to the floor. If you're sitting, notice your bottom connected to the seat of your chair. Maybe there are other places where your body is connected. Maybe if you're standing, you're leaned up against a wall and you can feel your back supported by the wall. Noticing the alignment of your hips and your shoulders and your head all in one line. Spine nice and long and tall so that you are alert. And then notice your breath. Notice as you take a breath into your body, and as your breath moves out, your body naturally breathing itself. Noticing where you can feel your breath, maybe your nose, maybe your ribs, maybe your belly. Noticing what it feels like to be in your body right now. And then noticing what it feels like to be in your heart right now. What emotions you're feeling, how those feel in the body, where you can feel them. And then noticing what it's like to be in your mind right now. What thoughts are pulling for your attention? And in our mindfulness practice, we know that we want to be in the right here and the right now. So if you have stuff going on in your mind, to-do lists, trying to remember things that you might want to use with students, anything that's pulling for your attention, I'm going to invite you to give yourself permission for the next couple minutes to just let those things go. And really try to focus on this mindfulness practice and being right here, right now, in your body. And we're going to go into our 3 breaths practice now. So bringing one hand to the heart and one hand to your belly, you can feel your heart beating. You can feel your belly rise and fall with your breath. We're going to take 3 breaths together, starting with a big sigh out. Then we'll breathe in through our nose, all the way down into the belly, and then completely emptying the body of breath. And then taking another breath in, deep and full into the body. Feel that breath move in. Feel it move out as you release that breath. And then breath number 3, big breath in, full breath out. And then you can release your hands. We're going to keep the eyes closed or the gaze soft down or on the leaves. And we're going to move into our why, our intention setting. And so this is something that's personal. And for you, you can set an intention for why you're doing this right now. And for a student, you might want to give them a little guidance on this, part of that skill development model. But it is very intentional and personal. And then once you've got your why, we're going to move into a breath counting technique. And we'll do 2 different kinds. We're going to do even in, even out breath and letting go breath. We're going to start with the even in, even out breath for balance. So you can have your hands on belly and heart or not. I like to put my hands on my belly with my fingertips just slightly touching. And then as I take a breath in, I feel my belly expand and my fingertips just slightly pull apart. And then as I release my breath, I blow it out. My fingertips come together. This is also a favorite of students. So we're going to breathe in for a count of 3. And breathe out for a count of 3. All the way down into the belly, breathing in for 3. And breathing out for 3. Even in, even out. Let's do 3 more. One more. And then we'll release that. And we're going to switch to a different breathing technique called letting go. This is for letting go of strong emotions. This could be anger, frustration. This could be just, one of those times where you have a little too much energy. We're going to take 3 letting go breaths now. So we'll breathe in for 3 and we'll exhale for 5. So breathing in for 3 And then letting go of your breath for 5. Let's do 2 more. Breathing in fully, last one. And then let it all go. And then before you open your eyes or lift your gaze, just notice how you're feeling in your body right now, how you're feeling in your heart, how you're feeling in your mind. And with mindfulness, you notice from the definitions, right? There's no judgment, there's no control, there's no expectation. You may feel amazing. It could be very comfortable. It could be pleasant. You may not. We know these techniques help us build balance, and we know they help us let go to build calm and focus, but we have to do them over time. But they also help us build acceptance. And so that can help us build resilience, meaning that, if things don't feel so great in our body, our hearts, or our minds right now, we can learn to be with those things. We know it's not forever. We can shift them with ways like techniques that can make us feel better, feel more comfortable or pleasant. But these are healthy coping techniques as opposed to like going to get a snack, for example, or taking a shot of whiskey. We know that we can do these things by just taking some breaths. And so that's why we want to do them for ourselves and for our students for building social emotional competency. Now let's do a little mindful movement. So mindful movement can be anything where you're paying attention to your body and how you feel in your body. So I'm going to do what we call fresh start sequence. This is just a very simple little sequence of movement. I'm going to do it standing. You're welcome to stand or to sit down, whatever feels right to you. You can do however you'd like. Oh, sorry, I'm backlit. Let me turn my chair around. So here I am, standing here. And I'm going to start in what I call a mountain pose. And so you can do this seated as well. A lot of teachers like to do this sitting down. We're going to take a big breath in. We're going to reach for the sky here. And then as we exhale, we're going to fold forward. And you can come down to your hips. You can come down to your low leg. If you go all the way to the floor, that's fine. But the point is really not the stretch. The point is to feel in your body what it feels like right now to be you in your body. To move mindfully in a way where you're right here, right now, noticing. And again, you might get the stretch and you might think, oh, this feels great. This feels really comfortable and pleasant. Or you may be thinking, wow, I'm really stiff. I don't feel so great about my body, whatever. We learn in mindfulness to be with whatever's happening right here, right now. We're going to look forward, nice flat back, and then we're going to exhale, folding forward again. Then we'll take a big breath in, belly in, as we reach for the sky, reaching up, stretching up and down, body nice and long and tall, feeling that alignment in the body. And then let's try it again. We're going to exhale, fold forward. Inhale, stretch the spine forward. Exhale, fold again. Inhale, reach for the sky. And you can add other things to this. You can actually go all the way down to the floor if you'd like. So let's just do that really quickly, and then we're going to move on to the resources. But this is a great warm-up as well. So inhaling, reaching for the sky. Exhale, you're going to fold forward. Inhale, nice long spine, stretching forward. Exhale, fold. You can bend your knees if you need to. Again, this is not about anything other than feeling your body. You can come into a plank pose. Knees can be down for support if you'd like. We'll bring it all the way down to the floor, low plank. And then a lot of kids like to do the dancing cobra. So you're kind of moving back and forth. You can do all of this to music as long as it just doesn't take you out of your body. We tuck the toes, we press back into our down dog. You can walk the dog by bending and straightening your legs. You can even walk your feet all the way to your hands. Inhaling and reaching up for the sky. And then another one that goes along with our balanced breath is a tree pose. And I know that most of us have done a tree before. You just pick your favorite foot, and then we're going to practice our balance by coming onto either side. And I know that's one that's familiar to most of us, so I'm probably not going to spend too much time on that. But if you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer questions about mindful movement. After our mindful movement practice, we come back to seated and we check in. What does it feel like to be in your body right now? After doing just that little tiny bit, how does it feel? And then after we do that, we go into our final part, which can be a gratitude practice. It can be relaxation. It could be calm. It could be a lot of different things. It could be a silent moment. Now, sometimes people start with a silent moment and they find that that is not a crowd pleaser. And I would have to agree, because especially if things are going on in your life that you're not really feeling so great about, or things happening in your body that are not feeling so comfortable to you, you might not want to sit silently and just focus on that. So let's try a short gratitude practice that can give you something else to think about, but it's also research-based for cultivating a little bit more acceptance with the moment. So even in the most painful moments of our lives, we can still find moments or flickers of gratitude, things to be grateful for. So you can close your eyes, or you can look at the leaves on the screen, or you can look down. And just take a moment to think of 3 things that you're grateful for today. If you need to, you can always look up. That helps students sometimes. Look around you, see if there's something that reminds you of something you're grateful for. Sometimes students really have a lot of trouble with this, and you can say something like, look around and see if there's something green, something that you can see that's green, and think of a reason why you might be grateful for that. Or you can even find an object and you can say, I'm really grateful for my phone. And when I think about all of the people that were involved in making this phone, I can think about the people that designed this phone and I can be grateful for that. I can think about the people that actually manufactured it, the people that transported it, the people that sold me the phone, the person who helped me set up my phone at the phone store. I can think about the people that I'm able to contact every day. I'm able to stay in touch with my children who don't live at home anymore through my phone. Sometimes you can actually kind of do that kind of gratitude practice too, if you have a situation where someone is really struggling with thinking of reasons why they are feeling grateful for something. And then when we finish our practice, we finish just like we started, tuned into this moment. What does it feel like to be in your body right now? Have there been any shifts or changes since the beginning of this short practice? What about your heart? And what about your mind? And then we'll finish with a breath together, taking a big breath in, reaching up for the sky. And then we're going to blow that breath out. And if your eyes are closed or your gaze is soft, the next time that you take a breath in, I invite you to float your eyes open. So that is a very brief mindfulness practice, about 10 minutes or so. And the reason why I think it's important to do that is because teaching mindfulness without practicing mindfulness would be like teaching physical education without actually practicing or valuing those skills. Doesn't mean that you have to be a professional athlete. That's really not the point, right? The point is that health, emotional health, physical health, mental health, wellness, that these things are things that you work on yourself. And so when you try to teach mindfulness practices without being mindful, or, it's like we all have growth, right? But if you're like, no, I don't really do that, but I'm going to teach it to my students, it's not really mindfulness. It's just activities. And it's okay to do social emotional learning activities without mindfulness. I mean, that's fine. But if you want to use mindfulness as your tool, you have to practice mindfulness. And you start by doing these kinds of practices and then bringing them into your teaching, and then trying to teach mindfulness using a skills-based approach. And so I showed you some of those overlays. I know that you all use skills development models. This is the 5-step one. I know it will probably look familiar to most people, but like with the breath counting, right? So how would you do that with a student? Well, first you would start with the why. Why is it important? Why are we doing this? What it is, what does it look like when you're successful? And then you break it down step by step, just like we did. And then you model it, and then you practice it. And then you think about, times that you can use it when you're not in school, just like you would do any other skill. And so you can teach it, just like you can practice it yourself. So resources. For being mindful, there is something called the CALM curriculum, and I teach a CALM during the school year every Thursday. You can get an hour of credit for it. It's an hour-long mindfulness practice. It's an easy way to get PD credit. And also it's a great way, if you're thinking about teaching these things to other people, to do the practice yourself. And then you can, like anything that resonated with you that you want to do with students, it can give you ideas. I know a lot of people use it for that. But it also is, it makes it authentic. Again, if you're not practicing it yourself, then it's hard to teach it with passion. And so I do that. I also do them during the summer. We should have already started them. We had some scheduling conflicts, but they will start fairly soon. They also offer 20-minute versions. You don't have to be on Facebook to do it, but 20-minute versions every morning. And I believe during the summer they do these at 9, but if you go to the Compassionate Schools Facebook, or which is just public facing, you don't have to be on Facebook to use it, or their social media, you can find out about that. That's not for PD credit, but it is a great way to start your day with a 20-minute practice. And it's, it's virtual, so it's easy to do. Also in town, we have the Earth and Spirit Center. So they offer classes that can help you develop or cultivate your mindfulness practice. The beginning level class, I took it many years ago. It was really fantastic. In the past, we followed this up with a mindfulness for educators, which Donna Benton taught, and then I taught it. Carrie Rogers also taught it. At one point, they're not offering it right now, but I think they probably will be again once we get kind of through this COVID time. But you could go to the it's like a 10-week class. You go to the mindfulness for educators, and then you go to your 10-week class and actually practice that. So Mimi, I'll let you know when they resume those again, so you can put those out. But they're really good because that special class just for educators, you get PD credit, but it allows you to bring this immediately into your teaching. And so that's a good one. And then they do a lot of other mindfulness meditation. They do a free session. If you just want a taste of it, you can go to their website and you can sign up for the free session. I think it's in September this year. And then they have like ones related to nature. They have a 27-acre nature preserve. So they have meditation related to nature. If you're a person who likes to be outside and moving when you do your meditation, they have a lot of different resources. Mindful Magazine has a lot of stuff. And this is all secular stuff. This is all research-based that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about something that, even at Passionate Earth and Spirit Center, that's not religious-based, that's actually secular-based. They serve everyone. And so Mindful Magazine, for sure, always secular. And there's a lot of recorded meditations and things like that on the website that are really good. There are a lot of mindfulness practices that are offered through mindful.org that are related to equity. and racial justice. And so if that's something that you're particularly interested in, you can find those there, and you can also find them led by people of color. And so I think that those are really important resources that we can share, well, for ourselves and to share with others. The Calm app is different than the Calm program, but this is free to teachers. And so you can use this to cultivate your own mindfulness practice, but you can also use it as a tool because there are resources for using with students as well. And then the CARE program, totally different than Calm. This one is specifically for teachers. The in-person CARE is at the Garrison Institute in upstate New York. They are not doing it in person right now, but they did for 12 or 15 years before, and I know they will resume it again. I was able to go. They offer scholarships, so it's very expensive, but they always offer a couple of scholarships. And I know that when they get an application from Kentucky, they're very interested in getting us up there. So I flew from Louisville to New York City and then made my way up into the Hudson River Valley and spent a free week up there with other educators from around the world doing this. And so I highly encourage you. And if you're interested, you can always touch base with me for more. The person who who actually invented this, right, and developed it is Tish Jennings, who's kind of right in the middle of this picture. And she is coming to Deeper Learning this year to do a mini CARE workshop for us. So if you'll be at Deeper Learning, you can sign up for a mini session. I think it's like maybe half a day with Tish. And I have information about that I'm going to share with you too. And so CARE is really not just mindfulness practice, but bringing mindfulness into your teaching. So not really teaching mindfulness to others, but how can I, when I'm standing in a classroom, use mindfulness to support myself and also to create a classroom environment where I'm using responsive management and creating a safe space for students where they feel free to take risks and learn using mindfulness as a tool for that. So that's the CARE, and this is just more about CARE. These are Tish's books. She's a professor at UVA. Mindfulness for Teachers includes being mindful and using mindfulness in your classroom. Trauma-sensitive classrooms, same, and the mindful school, same. Mindfulness for Teachers and Trauma-sensitive Classroom are really kind of written, they're books written by Tish for teachers. If you're an administrator, the Mindful School may appeal to you. It's not all by Tish. It's edited by her. It's more like academic articles and chapters about creating a school culture that's mindful and compassionate. So I would say if you're like trying to appeal to your administrator, Mindful School is probably the book you'd want. These other two are more for teachers. And I have copies of them if you would like a copy. Compassionate Schools, I think we know about Compassionate Schools. I'm a Compassionate Schools teacher now. This is a great resource and we can always reach out and help you. I know that the program is expanding to 25 schools in the fall from the 18 that we have now. So it's growing and it's exciting, and there's a curriculum there that you can use, that you can teach. And then here are some other resources before we have some time to just talk. Because I really want you to be able to say, well, this is what I need, and maybe I can give you some ideas. So on the JCPS Library and Media Services webpage, there's a LibGuide, and the LibGuide for mindfulness will tell you things that have been purchased by grants mostly in the past that are in JCPS's professional library. And you can access those. There's books and all kinds of other things too. And so those are things that you can borrow. Deeper Learning Symposium. Let's see, I can tell you quickly what the sessions are. I don't have them on a slide because they haven't, I think they've all been approved, but they haven't been necessarily scheduled. but I can
That's
tell you.
right. They haven't been scheduled yet. I'm
Okay.
on that committee, as you know. So
Oh,
we
right,
have
right, right.
everything approved, but they're not scheduled yet.
Okay, so I'll just read quickly. There's about six, no, there's, oh, well, here, I'll just read quickly. Okay, so the care program that I told you, and thank you, Mimi. The care program that I told you about with Tish Jennings. And so it will be Introduction to Care, Cultivating Awareness and Resilience for educators, and then diving deeper into emotions, teacher burnout, and turnaround. So if you're looking for creating a little more joy or reigniting the joy in your teaching, you can definitely find that. Or it's just good to, like, you know, do, it's like every once in a while, it's good to just do a little something for you, to have a little me time, so that when you go back into the classroom, that you can feel rejuvenated and you can pour from a full cup instead of an empty cup. Tish Jennings, Deepening SEL with Mindfulness, the orange slices of the pie. So we're going to be looking at the relationship building part, which is something that we always need to work on with others, ourselves, and with students. Creating authentic connections with colleagues. That's two different doctors from UVA that are going to come and talk about that, people that have worked in schools. Mindfulness, compassion, and justice or injustice. So that will be an equity focus. Mindfulness, compassion, and implicit bias, another equity focus. Making connections through mindful movement. So that would definitely be a good one for PE folks. Deepening SEL with mindfulness, the green slices of the pie. So that's going to be more of a focus on self and self-management. And mindfulness and social emotional learning, what does the evidence say? So that's more research-based stuff. So those are some of the ones that are going to be in deeper learning through the mindfulness strand this year. Louisville Free Public Library got a Nettle Roth grant a few years ago and bought about 1,000 different things. I have a list of them if you'd like them. They're not flagged in their catalog, but they're all there. And if you'd like that list, I'm glad to send it to you. It's like, 50 pages long, but it's all different resources that you can check out through Louisville Free. And then the other thing you can do is you can go to their website and request an educator's box, and they will put up to 30 books or other resources in that educator's box. And you can check those out with your special educator's library card. And I don't know if you've heard, but they're no longer doing fines. So that's not a reason not to do it. If you're like me and it's hard to get them in and out sometimes, don't worry about getting fines on 30 things because they're no longer doing fines. And then you can have those resources for your class. And you just tell them, I want mindfulness. And you can say, I want mindfulness for me, or I want mindfulness for other staff members in my school because I'm going to do a PD, or I want mindfulness to use with my students in their K-5 or their third grade or whatever. And they will create that resource for you. And you just show up and check it out. KET has done a lot of programming with us, and they have some great videos and things. They also have a Compassionate Schools collection and an SEL collection on their website. But if you haven't looked at their offerings, you should definitely check them out at the education.ket.org K-12 link. The Speed Museum is something that you can take your students to when we're back in field trips. And you can do that for free. And then they have a whole program about mindful viewing and slowing down at the speed. And so that may be of interest to you, or just something you could mention to others in your school that they might be interested in. The Food Literacy Project has a slow food component. And then they have 2 different locations, including the one in Iroquois area now. So if you're at a South End school, that would make a great field trip, or you could get them maybe out to your school and you could do a little mindful eating and drinking as part of your health curriculum. I Be Me, for those of you who are working with teens, and actually when I did the link, looks like I missed the I, but anyway, it's ibeme.org. They are the leader in teen mindfulness retreats and programming. And on their website, they have a lot of resources, including taped mindfulness sessions, like different kinds of mindfulness practices. And they're specifically for teens. And then a lot of them are featured teachers that are people of color. So if you're looking for people of, like someone to lead this who looks like your students, that's a great resource to go to also. And I had the great fortune of working at some of those retreats pre-pandemic. They're amazing. We had a lot of kids who were coming because, they were, this is not your typical group. And a lot of the leaders are not your typical leaders. I worked with one who had been a former gang member, and we worked with groups of kids who were trying to, they were mostly in foster care, but they're trying to leave gangs. This is really a real situation. They have great resources. CASEL, we have a Kentucky chapter that we, as like pretty newly founded, but this is Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. The Kentucky chapter is made up of JCPS folks. So if you're looking for people to connect with, they also have tons of resources on this website. And so that's a great place to go to, all secular. Mindfulschools.org is one that's probably familiar to most of us. They have tons of resources as well. Greater Good Magazine, same thing, tons of resources for teachers and educators, all secular. And then about Shape and Open and Go Noodle, but I thought I should put those up there for sure. So just thinking about all these different things, I know that I think maybe this is the question that people need to fill out for the session, but just thinking about all these different things, is there one specific thing that you might want to bring into your practice? And then I want to give you my emails. Here's my cell phone. You can always call or text me. Text is probably best. Text me and I'll call you back. Sometimes I don't catch phone calls. But you can always email me as well. If you're at Bloom, you can connect me. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we have plenty of time for questions, if anybody has anything.
I have exciting news. You mentioned Go Noodle. I bought 100 site licenses for Go Noodle Plus last year, and I was getting ready to redo that for all my elementary folks. And they told me that Go Noodle Plus will be free for all educators now. So everybody will have access to Go Noodle Plus. So that's something cool.
That's very cool. And, if you're just looking for like something easy, go to the Flow channel and just, do a video with the kids. There's some really good ones. Daryl, I didn't mention this, Mimi knows, Daryl and I, we co-taught all the way through NTI, and he co-taught with Cindy Plappert for 2 years. And so it was, the way that we did our classes, both virtually and when we got back into in person, we just continued to do them together. We'd start with a mindfulness, some kind of instant activity that was fun, but was mindfulness. And then something engaging, and then we would do mindful movement. We just kind of went back and forth. And he even would, he could weave in, like throwing and catching and things like that, but we just kind of go back and forth, and we would end with some kind of practice. And it works well to be able to weave it in, even into a regular PE class. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a standalone health class where today we're doing just mindfulness. You can just weave these things in, and it works well.
I have shared the validation question for everyone. We have a couple of new people on here. If you're joining us for the first time this week, the validation question that I just posed in the chat box is for me to know that you were here, and so I can get you your PD credit. So if you'll click on that link, that will take you to a Google form, and you just fill that out. If you've been here all week long, those are the links to look for. I have shared the presentation with everybody a couple of times. I will share that again. Just a second. It's got tons of good resources in it. Thank you for that, Catherine.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been an awesome session.
Honestly, just to add the 3 breaths practice, let's take 3 breaths, let's let's bring our hand to our heart and our belly. We just did some kind of movement. It could be jump rope. It could be anything, and let's just take a moment and check in with our bodies and notice as we're bringing down our heart rate, notice how where our heart rate comes down, that our breath is coming down. That's a mindfulness practice you're already doing, and that makes a great transition to your next activity.
So let me pose a question for the chat. How do you implement mindfulness in your classroom already? If you do, please add it to the chat while we have a few extra minutes so others can see what you're doing. So after you filled out the validation question, what type of mindfulness practices are you doing in your classroom? You can either talk or add it to the chat. If you want to speak, it's great to hear people's voices. We've been awfully quiet this week. We've done a lot on the chat.
Calm app is great. I think it's a really good one. Flow on Go Noodle, absolutely.
Anybody else? I always feel like a preacher at church. Anybody else? Anybody want to testify?
Mindful moment. Hey, Michelle, take 5. Oh yeah, time.
Hey,
Time
Catherine.
is this one. Hey, Michelle. Michelle came when Daryl was going to be out, and I was like, oh no, I'm doing the PE part too. Michelle came through for me. Thank you. And so take 5 is just, you're taking 5 breaths. So you're tracing your hand, and then you're blowing your breath out, coming down to the in between. You're just feeling your hand, and then you're blowing that breath, and you want to go slow so that you can really feel it as you move. And I like this one too. If you have a couple friends who maybe they're just being silly because they just need a moment, you can actually say to them, during a time when we can get close and touch each other, you can say, why don't one partner, you use your hand and the other partner trace, and you all breathe together, and then you can do that again, and then you're done. And I also like activities where, as a teacher, it has a beginning and an end, and then you're done, as opposed to go over to the calm corner and there's toys over there, and now I've lost you and I'll never get you out of the calm corner ever again. Now everybody wants to be in. Those are not the activities I like. But if you say take 5 or take 10 or take 5 as a partner, you have a beginning and an end, and then you can transition and move on.
I really like that take 5. I teach kindergarten, or an assistant with kindergartners, and we take a compassion class once a week. Well, when we're back in the norm, we will go special area once a week, and we do the belly breathing, and that seems to help them calm them down. But I really like the 5 that you were just doing. They can trace their hands at the same time while they're relaxing. They're learning, and they're thinking of something fun to do, because they can make like a roller coaster up and down the hills, I think, when they're tracing their hands and stuff. So,
yeah, a lot of times kids will say the roller coaster because they've seen the video with the roller coaster too, and I think that's great. Like, it's great that they connected that way.
Yeah, last year's class, they did really good. They really enjoyed it and stuff. But we didn't do the hands and everything. I think I'm gonna try to implement that. When we have, like, they start getting a little rowdy or whatever, and trying to get them, trying to get a room full of 6-year-olds to kind of get back together and calm back down again. That might be able to kind of get them at ease and just get them back on track again too. So I really like that.
Oh, what school are you at?
I'm at Blake Elementary.
Oh yeah, that's a great school. Yeah, you all have a great program there. One thing that I like about Take 5 too is that I like to do anything where you can, make a math connection. So if you play the game Pop, I don't know how many of you played it, but Pop is more of a classroom game where you stand, like a student stands up and says 5, and the next one says 10, and the next says 15, and then 20. You're learning to count by 5s or 1s or 2s or 3s or whatever. And then you have a certain number in mind. So it could be 100, and then someone says, 95, and next says 100, and then the next person says Pop. And so you can play this in different ways, but you can take 5 at the pop, like anytime anybody pops, you can take 5, that kind of thing. Or they can do 5 jumping jacks, or they can have the choice. You can have 5 choices. Take 5 would be 1. 5 jumping jacks would be 2. 5, star jumps, or 5 arm circles, or, and then you're making like, you're connecting the math content.
Right. Yeah.
With that,
I
with the
really like that
movement.
idea. I really like that idea. Thank you. Class was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, body scan is awesome too. So there's 2 different ways to do body scan. There's body scan, and then there's a tension release. So body scan is just really noticing how you feel in your body. So I can feel my feet connected. Notice that you can feel your feet connected to the floor. Notice the space between your toes. Notice your toes are still or they're wiggling. Notice your low leg, notice your upper leg, notice your belly, notice your back, notice
Yeah,
your shoulders.
our compassion teacher does that and everything.
Yeah.
She gets on we start with the belly breaths, and then she sits there and she just talks so calm. She's just so calm. She's great. Our compassion teacher she's just great with the kids, and she can just get them. They can be all wired up, and then 5 minutes when she's in there, she just got them all calm back down. Because you know how that transition goes with kids sometimes. But I mean, just like that, she's got them all calmed down. I'm like, so I kind of watch what she does, and I try to implement some of the things that she does in class, but try to make like a game or a learning tool or something for the kids. So, they're getting a break, but they really don't know they're getting a break.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The other way you can do it is you can add tension release. So you can say like, notice your feet and your toes, and then squeeze your toes up and squeeze your feet up, and then let it go. And then you can go, notice your legs, squeeze your legs up, let your muscle really hug and squeeze your bones, and then let that go. And then you can go through the whole body, and then eventually you say, do the whole thing with your whole body, and then let your whole body go and relax. And so anything time you're doing something where it's physical, that has a real grounding and centering, and that's calming. So anytime that you're in the body, and it's interesting, you're doing a great job with this, but a lot of teachers are in the head. And they're not really in the body. So you go into a classroom, and a lot of times, the teachers, and not all, I'm not, but a lot of times, as you get into the older, like when you're in middle and high, the teachers are like kind of disassociate from your body. You should be able to sit still for 50 minutes and not move around, and so they just kind of cut it off at the neck. And instead, we want to actually be in the body. We want to be feeling the body. We don't want to just be in the head. We don't want to just be in the cognitive domain. We want to be a whole learner, and we want to use the body. And these techniques can help with that too.
Yeah. We give our kids, like I said, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, it's really hard to get them to say concentrate and sitting still for a long period of time. So about every hour, a little over an hour after we're done, like doing a lesson, we'll get them to get stretched and do like a little wiggle break, whether it's Go Noodle or one of the dance free songs or something, or every so often our teacher will put like this real calming music on while she's teaching and they're working on their work. She has real calming music playing in the background, real light, but just kind of, you just kind of see them focusing and like the little things that bother them, which should not be bothering these kids. You can just kind of see it like just go away from them, so yeah.
And one of the things you can do with the little ones, you mentioned freeze dancing, is you can add to that the anchors. So instead of just freezing, like with a freeze dance and then waiting for the music, instead of just doing that, you can bring a hand to the heart and the belly and take 3 calming breaths. And it can be called a take pause game instead of a freeze dance. So you play the music, and then when the music stops, you find your anchors and you take your 3 breaths. And then you come into mountain, and then you play the music again. And so that way, it's kind of a fun way to practice.
I like that.
Skill.
I can't wait to talk to the teacher today. I can't wait to talk to her to tell her I learned about all this stuff. I'm so excited. And
Michelle, I'm glad that you joined us today.
I am too. Thank you for
we're getting ready to wrap up this session. Catherine, if you want to add your email into the chat.
Yes.
And if you are welcome to those folks who are here for the next